Let's give one more round of applause for the good Lord. Is he not awesome or what? Where else can you go and get all 4 seasons in 7 days? I think it was, what, 70 degrees a couple of days ago? Today I walk outside at work and it's fluttered and snow. My Lord's got a sense of humor. But before I get started, I just want to say I'm a part of a nonprofit organization that advocates for people in recovery. And what I say here today is not directly, is not the same, may not be the same views and beliefs that they have. I am a person and I have my own opinions. Like I said, my name is Adam Smith. I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means to me that I have not used any minor mood-altering chemicals in 30 months. So I'm working on that. I'm working on that 3-year mark. And as I talk today, I'll hit bits and pieces of my story, but I'm not going to talk too much about addiction. The wonderful thing that recovery has gave me today is I'm able to stay solution-focused and work in a solution rather than a problem. And I ripped and ran for 15 years. I've seen enough problem. I'm over it. I'm ready to start working on a solution. I grew up in a totally different home than the addict before me. My dad retired as a sheriff's deputy from the Ohio County Sheriff's Department. Every male in my family has served in the United States military. You know, we believe in God, family, and America in that specific order. That's our morals, that's the way we were raised. But that still didn't stop me from having a problem. You see, in 2008, President George W. Bush signed substance abuse law into effect, stating that the disease of substance abuse is actually a disease, and that it is for good reason. You see, I possessed all kinds of different signs growing up that I didn't realize. I remember when I was probably 10, 11 years old, I would sneak downstairs while everybody was sleeping and I'd steal all the Little Debbie's out of the snack cake drawer and I'd eat every one of them. I wanted to make sure I got them before my brothers and sisters got them, you know, and it was impulsive behavior, that which a lot of addicts possess that nobody really picked up on or understood. So as I continued, I suffer from this thing called rheumatoid arthritis. And as a child, I would have to go to Children's Hospital 3 times a week and get what was a new drug on the market. It was called naproxen. And the only way to get it was intravenously through an IV. So I would have to go up there because my body would swell up so bad 3 times a week and have IVs of naproxen put into my system. So I was a really sick child from the beginning. And that only added to the chemical solution aspect of my whole disease and my thinking towards it. So as I began to go through life, you know, I always really started to fill this void because my dad had my oldest brother and they always did their hunting and their fishing and I wasn't into that stuff. And then my mom had my sister and they always did their nails and their hair, and I just like my dirty nails. So I kind of just felt like I was the lone wolf in the middle, you know. So I started hanging out with kids that liked to drink beer and smoke a little bit of marijuana. That's what I did. But, you know, with my dad being a police officer and everybody in my family, well, I forgot to mention, not only is my dad a police officer, but my dad come from 10 children. My dad's parents had 10 children. 5 of those were police officers. And so I come from, I had it bad all the way around. My dad, not only was he a police officer, but he was a Free Will Baptist. If anybody knows what that is, it's like a double whammy. You make sure you edit that. But anyways, so as I was going on, I kept getting all this negative attention for the things that I was doing, you know. As I was growing up, I'm 12, 13 years old, and my parents are telling me on a daily basis I'm going to hell, you know. So That's just what I figured was happening, you know. We had the 10 Commandments, and we go to church, and our preacher would stand up and down, jump up and down on the pews, and hit his head in the ceiling fan, and then just go nuts. And they would tell us how horrible we was for the things that we were doing, and you know, that's the kind of lifestyle that I was grown up in. And even though that it was a good foundation to a certain point, it was also a really judgmental foundation. So I felt like I wasn't allowed to make mistakes, because the mistakes that I was making was just ultimately going to land me in heaven. Well, I know today that that's not the actual truth, okay? I'm allowed to make mistakes. That's what makes me human. So as I continued through life, I got put on some drugs called hydrocodone or Vicodin, and they were given to me to treat the juvenile rheumatoid arthritis as I got a little bit older. It was a narcotic. When I was 17 years old, I failed a drug test for THC marijuana, and they cut me off of those pain pills. So I started using other forms and other ways to get to those pain pills. By this time, see what addiction is after prolonged use to a certain substance, it hijacks your brain, okay? And the neurotransmitters in your brain don't fire right. So here for the last 3 or 4 years, even though it was prescribed to me, my brain is dumping all kinds of dopamine, which is a pleasure feeling chemical inside my brain. So when I don't have those things, I begin to get very ill. My stomach would cramp real bad, and I would have diarrhea, and I would shake, and I would feel so horrible. I couldn't get off the couch, and the only thing I could think about was how I was going to get that next pill. And it had only progressed from there because, like I said, the people that I was hanging out with at the time, they wasn't quite the best people in the world. So I ended up finding different forms and stronger chemicals through dealing with those people. After a period of time, I realized that it began to be a problem. And every male in my family had served in the military. So my out was, I'm going to go. We was at war, and my brother was actually over in a place called Djibouti, Africa, which is 3 miles from the Somalia border. He was in a war. So it was my turn to go. And this is how I was going to fix my problem. I was going to go into the military, and I was going to war. So I signed up for the military. Nobody told me that military doctors write prescriptions just like any other doctors. And I spent probably the first 3 years going to sick call about every other 3 or 4 days, getting a new prescription of pain pills, because they don't even ask questions. They just write you and send you on your way. So I did that for a while. And my life had just begun to spiral, unmanageable, become unmanageable, till I was in Baltimore, Maryland one night, and after a boxing match, I overdosed on cocaine. And when I overdosed, I died. They had to shock me and bring me back to life. Today I have valvular pulmonary disease. My valves don't close all the way in my heart as a result of the use of cocaine. So I came back home from the military, and when I got home from the military, they wanted to discharge me for use of drugs. So I took a medical discharge, but I never stopped using. I just came home, I linked up with different friends, but the same kind of friends, and continued to use. I got with a girl, and I had learned that I could make money and stay home. All I had to do was buy these things and sell them for double what I was buying for. So I did that. And I did okay with it for about 5 years. I wasn't the nicest person in the world. I wasn't the best person in the world. Matter of fact, I took everything that anybody had. I tore anybody's heart up. I didn't care about nobody. The only thing I cared about was how I was going to use it. The girl that I was with was in a car accident, and she was running from the police, and she got a 20-year sentence. She went to prison for 20 years. So today I'm blessed enough to have a 8-year-old boy that has a lung disease called cystic fibrosis. He ain't biologically mine, but that's my baby. I've had him by myself since he was 3 years old. I have 2 girls in common with her. One is 6 and one is 5. They're about to turn 7 and 6. But I was still in active addiction and I still had problems. But when she left, my son was 3 years old. My daughter had just turned a year, and she was 7 weeks pregnant. So when that baby was born, I went up to Wishart Hospital when she was 36 hours old and picked the baby up and had her ever since. So that girl, she went to prison, and we had a lot of issues. All we did was use together, so I got with another girl. And on April 12th of 2014, which is almost 3 years in a week, she was literally decapitated in front of me. We was in a car accident. I was on my way to the Suboxone doctor to get my fix, and she wrecked our car, and she was ejected from the driver's side window, and the top of the Durango car had ended against the pavement. Worst thing I've been through in my life. Thankfully, because I have a wonderful God, I was arrested 6 months later. Well, before I tell you that, in September, I got a $65,000 settlement for a car accident. When I was arrested in the end of October, I had $5,000 left and nothing to show for it. I had put every bit of it up my nose in a little less than a month. That's where my addiction had taken me. I was dealing with dreams and nightmares and all kinds of things, and I couldn't figure out how to deal with them. The only option that I had was the same option that I had for feeling like the black sheep of the family, for feeling like the middle child, for every emotion that I had ever had in every aspect of my life. And that was to use these chemicals to cope with things, because even though that's not how I started, that's what it had become to, and that's the point that it had gotten at. So I found a program in there that taught cognitive behavior. Cognitive behavior is coping skills, you know. It teaches us different life skills, how to regulate anger, how to start a conversation, how to have a difficult conversation. And through that, the Lord's also showed me my purpose in life. I get to advocate for people in recovery today. I have 30 months clean. I get to talk to city council members. I get to organize walks. I get to have wonderful people in the recovery community doing many amazing things. And when I was reading your flyer when I came in here, there was a few different questions on there. And I don't think I brought it up. I just want to answer these questions so we're clear about these questions when I leave here. Because these are frequently asked questions that I get from people in the community all the time. That's not it. One is, what is recovery? Recovery is defined by SAMHSA as a process in which somebody finds abstinence and wellness from chemical dependency, substance use disorder. It's important. And the reason why we're up here talking today is to offer a message of hope. None of you guys in this room may struggle with the same disease that we struggle with, but I promise there's somebody in this room that knows somebody that's struggling with it. We have 22.5 million people in America that struggle from substance use disorder, and 85 million people that suffer from the disease, whether they're suffering or it's their family member that's suffering.